You pick it up without thinking. You don't even remember deciding to reach for it. One moment your hand is at your side, and the next it's holding a glowing rectangle. Your thumb already moving. You're not bored. You're not waiting for a message. You didn't need to check anything, but here you are. Again, this happens to you dozens of times a day. Some researchers estimate the average person touches their phone over 2,000 times in a single day. And if you've ever tried to stop, really tried, put it in another room, turned it face down, promise yourself just 30 minutes, you know how strange it feels. Like trying not to breathe. The easy answer is that your phone is addictive, but that answer is too simple. Addiction implies something broken, something wrong with you specifically, and nothing about you is broken. What's happening is something far older, far stranger, and it started long before screens existed. It started in the savannah. Your brain was not built for the world you live in. That's not an insult. It's a fact of deep evolutionary history. The hardware running your thoughts, your cravings, your reflexes, it was forged over roughly 2 million years of a very different kind of life. A life where food was scarce and unpredictable, where danger could appear from any direction without warning, where missing a single signal in the environment could mean the end of everything, not just your life, the lives of everyone depending on you. Your ancestors didn't have phones, but they had something that worked on exactly the same principle. They had the world. Every rustle in the grass, every shadow at the edge of the tree line, every shift in the wind, every unfamiliar sound, every new face, every change in the sky. Information was survival, and your brain evolved to chase information the way a hawk chases movement, instinctively, automatically, without deliberation. The moment something new appeared, your attention snapped to it. Not because you chose to pay attention, not because you decided it was worth investigating, because the brains that didn't snap to new information didn't survive long enough to pass anything on. This is what neuroscientist Kent Berridge calls the wanting system. Berridge spent decades studying dopamine at the University of Michigan, and what he found overturned everything scientists thought they knew about how desire actually works. Dopamine, it turns out, is not the pleasure chemical. That's a myth. Dopamine is the wanting chemical. It doesn't reward you after you find something good. It fires before you find it. It pushes you to search, to seek, to scan the environment for anything that might matter, to keep looking, to stay restless, to never quite settle, and it never turns off. Berridge demonstrated this in a series of experiments that became famous in neuroscience circles. When researchers selectively blocked the dopamine systems in rats, the animals lost all motivation to seek food. Even food they were known to love. They could still experience pleasure when food was placed directly in their mouths. Their enjoyment circuit still worked, but they wouldn't move toward it. They wouldn't search. Without dopamine, there was no wanting. Without wanting, there was no motion. There was only stillness and eventually death. Your dopamine system is the opposite of that rat. It is always on, always scanning, always sending a low, persistent hum of restlessness through your body that whispers, check, look, see if something changed, see if there's something you missed, something new, something important, something you need to know right now. For 2 million years, that signal kept your ancestors alive. When it fired and they looked up, sometimes there was a predator, sometimes there was fruit, sometimes there was a stranger with news about water, 3 days walk to the east, or a change in the weather, or a rival group moving through the territory. The signal almost always meant something. So the brain that obeyed it immediately, without pausing to debate, survived. And those brains passed themselves on to children, to grandchildren, through thousands of generations of restless, scanning, information-hungry humans, until the signal passed to you. You are the biological descendant of every human who ever looked up when their gut said, look. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has spent years mapping exactly this kind of collision, the crash between ancient human instincts and the environment those instincts now have to navigate. He points out something that sounds obvious the moment you hear it, yet most people never truly sit with it. Natural selection does not plan ahead. It has no foresight. It can only reward what worked before. The traits it selected for were the ones that helped your ancestors survive in a world of scarcity, uncertainty, and constant threat. Not the traits that would help you sit quietly in a room full of information with no predators anywhere. Your brain was optimized for a world that no longer exists. And now it's running, full speed, in a world it was never designed for. Think about what your phone actually is at the most basic level. Strip away the apps, the interfaces, the content. What is it? It's an information environment, an infinite one. Every time you open it, there is something new. A message, a headline, a video, a notification, a number that has changed since the last time you looked. Each one is a tiny flicker of novelty, and your dopamine system, the same ancient system that kept your ancestors scanning that tree line, fires at every flicker. Not because it has evaluated the importance of the information. It can't do that. It only knows that something is new. And new things, for 2 million years, were almost always relevant. The phone is a savanna that never goes quiet, but there is a second layer, one that makes everything significantly worse. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner conducted a series of experiments that would, decades later, become the hidden foundation of every social media platform ever built. He gave rats a lever. When they pressed it, they sometimes received a food pellet. Not every time, not on a predictable schedule, randomly, unpredictably. Sometimes pressing the lever gave nothing. Sometimes it gave 1, sometimes 3. The timing was completely variable, and what Skinner observed changed the science of behavior permanently. The rats became obsessed. They pressed the lever more frantically, more persistently, more compulsively than rats who received a guaranteed pellet with every press. The uncertainty didn't reduce motivation, it multiplied it dramatically. Skinner called it variable ratio reinforcement, and it turned out to be the most potent behavioral driver ever identified in any species. Your brain knows how to adapt to a predictable outcome. It calculates, it satisfies, it moves on. But an unpredictable one deactivates the part of you that knows when to stop, pull to refresh, scroll the feed, open the app, check the notifications, maybe nothing, maybe a message from someone you love, maybe a piece of news that matters, maybe something funny, maybe something devastating. You don't know. And that not knowing is precisely what your dopamine system was designed to chase through the grass. This is not a coincidence. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google who went on to co-found the Center for Humane Technology, spent years inside the technology industry watching exactly this principle applied deliberately to product design. He was clear about what he observed. These systems are not built to give you what you want. They are built to keep you wanting. Every notification is a food pellet dispenser. Every heart, every like, every comment is a variable reward. Every social feed is a lever your thumb pulls 100 times a day. And unlike the lever in Skinner's lab, this one is with you always. It fits in your pocket. It's on your nightstand while you sleep. Your brain, a brain built for the ancient world, running software that is millions of years old, has no defense against it. Because the wanting system operates faster than conscious thought. It already moved your hand before your mind had a chance to object. And here's the piece nobody explains clearly enough. The brain's wanting system and its satisfaction system are not the same thing. They are separate circuits. Barrage proved this too. You can want something intensely and feel almost nothing when you get it. You felt this. You pick up your phone expecting something, find nothing of consequence, and feel the urge to check again immediately. Not because the check was satisfying, because it wasn't. And the wanting signal, left unsilenced by any real reward, resets in seconds and fires again. More. Again. Something might have changed. This is the loop, not a character flaw, not weakness of will, not addiction in the clinical sense. A 2 million year old survival program running on hardware it was never meant to encounter. Your ancestors who sat still, who didn't look up when the signal fired, who let the rustling go uninvestigated, those ancestors didn't survive long enough to pass their calm onto you. The restless ones did. The anxious ones, the ones who couldn't stop scanning, couldn't stop checking, couldn't stop reaching for information even when everything seemed fine. Those were the ones who lived, and living, they passed their restlessness forward, generation after generation, until it arrived here, inside you, in a world where the rustling never stops. There's a term in evolutionary science for this exact phenomenon. evolutionary mismatch. It describes what happens when a trait that served us in one environment becomes harmful in another. Lieberman uses it to explain why humans eat too much sugar in a world of supermarkets, why we struggle with chronic pain from sitting, why we find it almost impossible to exercise consistently despite knowing we should. The trait worked. Then the world changed far faster than evolution could follow, and the trait turned on us. Your relationship with your phone is evolutionary mismatch made visible. Knowing this doesn't make the impulse disappear. You can understand completely and intellectually every mechanism at work here: the dopamine, the variable rewards, the ancient novelty-seeking instinct, and still find your hand reaching 30 seconds later without any conscious decision. Understanding is a slow process. The wanting system is fast. It was already moving before you finished thinking. But knowing gives you something more valuable than control. It gives you clarity about what's actually happening, and something close to compassion for yourself. The next time your hand moves before your mind does, when you pick up the phone without deciding to, without knowing why, you can see it for what it is. Not failure, not weakness, not something that makes you broken in the age of technology. A very old brain doing exactly what kept it alive, scanning for something that matters, listening for the signal that says the world has changed and you need to know. The savannah is long gone. The brain never got the message. And tonight, when your hand reaches for it again without thinking, without deciding, without knowing why, you'll know exactly why.